Hi there. My name is Liliana Blackstar from Hestia's Muse, and I'm here to just have a little chat with you about the full moon that's coming up on February 4th and 5th of 2023. It's February already, you guys. Here we go. 2023, off to a good start so far. I wanted to try to maybe do some video format of the stuff that I talk about on my Patreon and my Facebook. I'm always posting astrology updates on my Facebook and my Patreon. So I thought, why not also do something on video? Because a lot of people like to have some visuals and hear some voice. So here I am. Let's try it out and see how it goes, shall we? So we're here today to discuss the full moon in Leo that is taking place on February 5th. So the moon will enter the sign of Leo on February 4th at 12:49 a.m. So like right after midnight on the 3rd, when it turns into the 4th, very early in the morning, the moon will enter the sign of Leo. And Leo is the sign that is opposite to the sign of Aquarius. So with every full moon, we have an opposition occurring between the sun and the moon. And that means that the sun is in one sign and the moon is in the exact opposite sign. And that's how we have the full moon, because the moon is directly reflecting all of that sunlight from exactly opposite in the sky. So we have a period of an opposition. Oppositions seek to teach us balance and integration of opposing energies. The opposite signs are like two sides of the same coin. They have a lot to teach each other and offer each other, and they're also very supportive of each other. So sometimes people think of oppositions as a negative thing, and it's not necessarily negative. It's just that there's a tension there. But that tension can also provide support, but it can also provide a little push to change and do things differently. So we have the sun currently going through the sign of Aquarius, and so we've got a lot of Aquarius energy going on. We have some other planets in Aquarius too. And so we're just really feeling that Aquarius energy. And the new moon was in Aquarius because the new moon is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign together. And so we had the sun and the moon meet up together at the beginning of the lunar month and say, yeah, Aquarius energy, let's do it. And since then, the moon has moved forward through the chart, and the moon has maybe seen some things. It's like if you have a friend and you agree to work on a project together, and then you go out and talk to other people, but your friend stayed home and is still working on the project. You're working on the project too, but you've gone out and you've talked to some people and you've gained some different perspective. And by the time the moon gets to the opposite point, it's halfway around the zodiac wheel, and the moon says, hey, sorry to tell you, but I think that there's something we're forgetting. There's something really important we're forgetting, and that's the opposite side of the Aquarius energy is Leo. We cannot really do our Aquarius goal very well and fully without remembering to integrate the energy of Leo. So that's what every full moon is like, is the moon gets to that opposition point. It's like, hey, wait a second. Our goal is still valid from our new moon, and hopefully we've got some progress with that goal, but we have to also remember the opposite side of that energy. Because if we don't remember the opposite side, then our goal is going to be imbalanced. And when something is imbalanced, it's not strong and it's not going to last. So I love a full moon for a period of reflection and like forgiving ourselves for only being so one-sided and remembering to bring in some balance and look at the opposite energy that we have going on. So the moon in Leo is generally a great time to have fun and feel good. It's encouraging and uplifting and creative. Leo energy encourages us to express ourselves and celebrate that which makes us unique and special. So for a Leo moon in general, whether it's full or not, it's a good idea to just dress up, go out, go dancing, do your hair or makeup, post some selfies, like do those things that celebrate you and make you feel good. The Leo moon is a great confidence booster, and we all deserve to feel good about ourselves from time to time, right? So the Leo moon is also a great time to share your art or music or writing, whatever you've created, whatever you're working on that you are proud of. It's a good time to kind of show it off a little bit, brag a little bit, show it to the world. Your creativity is unique and one of a kind, and there are people in the world who will appreciate what you have done. And you won't know unless you put it out there. And the Leo moon is all about putting yourself out there. It's all about being able to let yourself stand in the spotlight for a moment and being able to feel other people's eyes on you is that Leo energy. There is like the struggle of self-confidence that is inherently Leo too. We talk about Leo confidence and courage, but with that, in the end, it's like there's a desire for people to validate us. Like Leo energy is all about wanting people to accept you, wanting people to love you. And if you're not getting that validation, it can feel, you feel smaller. But when you do get that validation, you feel bigger. So the Leo moon can bring up your feelings of self-confidence, whether it is an abundance of self-confidence or a lack of self-confidence. Either way, those issues can kind of come to the surface during the Leo moon, because that's what the Leo moon is teaching us. It's teaching us how we see ourselves, how we receive praise from other people. Are you able to accept a compliment when someone gives you a compliment, or do you push it away and say no? Or are you not receiving any praise or compliments from the people around you? And if not, then you need some better friends, right? And that's part of the Aquarius thing that we're going to get into in a minute is Leo needs Aquarius because Aquarius is the crowd. Aquarius is the community. Aquarius is the group of people standing in front of the stage cheering for the person on the stage. And so without Aquarius, without communal support, it's very hard to tap into that Leo confidence. So when the full moon is in Leo, the Leo energy is amplified, and it's a very important energy to tune into. It doesn't matter if you have planets in your birth chart in Leo or not. This full moon helps us all feel that Leonine energy of creativity and fun. It's also the perfect time to give recognition and affirmation to the people around you, because you got to remember, if I'm feeling this way, everyone else is feeling this way too. So if you're wishing that people would affirm you and validate you, then one of the things you can do is turn that around and just start affirming and validating the people in your life that are important to you. So, who in your community do you wish to shine a light on? Who in your community deserves some recognition and affirmation? It's a good time to shower other people with compliments and affirm their value in your life. The Leo moon is reflecting sunlight from Aquarius, and Aquarius, again, the sign of community and friendship. So it's very important that we think about what we're contributing to our community, what we're contributing to our society and our friend group. Because if we are giving them something of value, then that's the give and take of Leo and Aquarius. So we have this full moon that is Sun in Aquarius and the moon in Leo. And that will be building in fullness starting all day through February 4th. And then on the night, or no, the morning of February 5th at 10:27 a.m. Pacific time, the moon will be 100% full, and that's when it's in exact opposition to the sun in Aquarius. And that'll happen when the moon is at 16 degrees 40 minutes Leo, and the sun is at 16 degrees 40 minutes Aquarius. And that again is the morning of February 5th at 10:27 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So the night of February 4th, it's not quite 100% full, but it is building in fullness. So if you're wanting to do any of your energy working or ritual type work for the full moon on the night of February 4th, that will also be appropriate. It's full moon energy, it's building up. And that's when we want that full moon energy, is when it's approaching fullness, right? So the basis of the Aquarius Leo axis is self-expression versus group expression. So self-expression is that Leo energy and group expression is that Aquarius energy. Leo is focused on self-expression, individuality, and our personal creative potential. Whereas Aquarius is focused on group expression, community, and the creative potential of groups of people working together. So Leo might be asking, what do I get out of this activity? What do I get out of making this art? What do I get out of singing this song and standing on this stage? Or what do I get out of just existing? Well, Aquarius is asking kind of from the other side of that. What does the community get out of this activity? What does the community or group get out of this art or this performance or existing, right? So the lessons of Aquarius all through Aquarius season, while the sun is in Aquarius and we have other planets go through Aquarius too, we're going to be thinking about recognizing others as special. There's going to be a focus on concepts of equity and equality. Is this fair? Is this just? Do other people have access to this thing? There's a focus on the strength of the collective or the group willpower. So it's a good time to think about how your goals are supported by other people in your community and how you can lend energy to support the goals of your group. So listening to the desires of your community, listening to the desires of your friend group, instead of just doing something for you. It's about like what's the fun thing that your friends want to go do. You don't want to just be the one who always decides what movie we're going to see. You want the feedback from the friend group to see what they want to see too, right? And so with this focus on the desires of the group and the group willpower and equity and equality comes the Aquarius energy of revolution or rebellion, because sometimes we have to rebel against a standard that the group suddenly decides we don't like this standard anymore. Maybe it worked a long time ago and it doesn't work now. So we're going to have to revolt against that a little bit or revolutionize the way that we do things. Aquarius is about being unconventional. So there's a lot of focus on doing things differently than it's been done before, because we're looking for how can we do this better, right? How can we make things more equal? How can we make the collective stronger? And in order to do that, we have to sometimes do things that haven't been done before. So we have to try new things and get really creative. So both Aquarius and Leo are about creativity, but the creativity of Aquarius is definitely more about creativity for the sake of humanitarianism. It's like the inventiveness of inventing something that's going to benefit the whole. And there's a creative spark that has to take place there, but it's different than the creative spark of just like throwing some colorful paint on a canvas because it makes you feel good. It's the creative spark of like inventing the internet or the telephone, right? Things that are supposed to connect the collective or help the collective in some way. So that's the Aquarius side of the axis. And that's kind of, like I said, the moon and the sun were together at the beginning of the season with the Aquarius new moon 2 weeks ago. And we set out on this goal of like, we're going to do Aquarius stuff, right? We're going to think about the collective, and we're going to listen to the desires of the group and focus on what's equal and fair for everyone, and be humanitarianism focused and group focused. And then the moon has moved further around through the zodiac, and it gets to Leo, and it says, wait a second. Those are all great things, Aquarius, but we have to balance the Aquarius energy with the lessons of Leo. The lessons of Leo are about individuality, because we have to remember that the wellness and happiness of the individuals is going to help that collective work a lot better. If there are people individually in a group that are sick, miserable, depressed, angry, that's going to bring down the vibe of the whole group, right? So Leo is like, well, you got to take care of yourself too. You got to make sure you're feeling good. You got to let yourself feel good as an individual, because you are not just a drone that's part of a collective. You are an individual. So we have to build our self-confidence and our strength of willpower and our sense of self-identity in the sign of Leo before we can really fully connect with the collective, and vice versa. We need the collective to help the individual feel stronger. So you see how these are definitely intertwined energies that need to work together. So Leo teaches us about following the desires of the heart, following our desires. Aquarius wanted to follow the group desires, which is noble and good, but sometimes we need to follow what we want, right? Sometimes we need to do something because it feels good for me, right? And if the group is like, you shouldn't do that, sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes the group doesn't know what you as an individual need, right? So this is where we get into the energy of Leo being about playfulness and enjoyment of life and creativity for the sake of creation, rather than creativity for the sake of building something for the community or for the sake of making the world a better place. Sometimes we just want to make some art. What's it for? It's not for anything. It's for making art. We want to sing a song. Well, what's the song for? It's for singing. It's for feeling good. It's for enjoying life. It's for celebrating in this moment, right? So Leo has that important key because the community needs those moments of joy. The community needs those moments of enjoyment and playfulness and pleasure too, and they get them through individuals creating those moments, right? So we have to remember to balance both sides when we are, even as just a person within yourself, you have both Leo energy and Aquarius energy. No matter what's in your chart, we all have all the archetypes of the signs existing within us. So we have to learn to find balance. If you're too much in the Leo energy all the time, then you're prideful, you're selfish, right? Because it's not being balanced by the Aquarius energy, which says I have to remember my friends. I have to remember that I'm part of a group. I'm part of a collective. But at the same time, if you're too much in the Aquarius energy and you have rejected the Leo side, then you have become an automaton. You are just living for the collective, and you have forgotten your sense of self-identity and self-expression. And you're not then bringing anything new to the group because you're just likely echoing what the group is saying, right? And Aquarius wants that new, fresh, creative, outside the box energy, and it gets that energy from individuals that are not thinking like the group, right? So there's definitely an intertwined energy that you can see here. So if Leo relates to the creative spark from a place of self-expression, Aquarius relates to the creative spark from a place of group expression, and these are both important. Leo creativity comes from a personal need. So it is the ability to create a desired outcome that serves me. And Aquarius creativity comes from a group need, the ability to create something that serves the whole. The balance comes in the discovery that both of these are important and one can't actually exist without the other. There are things that we all need as a collective, and there are things that an individual needs, but the whole group doesn't need, and that's okay. So the balancing point is finding ways to harmonize from extremes, to find something that satisfies both individual needs and group needs. Leo may tend to be focused on its own individual experiences to a point of narcissism, while Aquarius takes a more aloof, detached approach as it focuses on the collective. And so that, again, is where balance is necessary. Aquarius reminds Leo that if one person in the community is suffering, it lowers the health of the collective group experience. And then Leo reminds Aquarius that the collective group is more functional if each individual person can shine with their own unique perspective. Leo has to remember that the stage and spotlight are meaningless without a crowd to admire them. Like I said before, like Leo needs that validation from other people, that energy of others looking in and saying, you're doing a great job, you're so beautiful, you're so smart, look what you did. And that comes from the collective, that comes from the community. If Leo was on a stage in the middle of the woods with no one around, that's not a stage. That's not a spotlight. It's the people, it's the community that make something a stage and make something a spotlight, right? And then Aquarius has to remember that the individual standing on the stage is only there because the collective or the majority of the crowd has elevated that person to be there. The crowd has said, yes, we like this person, we want them to be on that stage. And so it's very much the energy of like the way that our society lifts up certain people. And if we as individuals go, I don't understand why that person is popular, well, there's something that you got to figure out because you're part of a community and a culture and a society, and that society is giving this person a stage and a spotlight. So again, part of Aquarius revolution and change is when enough people in the collective say, I don't like this. Why are we giving this type of person a spotlight? We need to revolutionize what people value and what we collectively like support and what we collectively allow to flourish in our society. And that's when revolution happens, when enough individuals within the collective say, oh, enough is enough. We don't want this anymore. How can we change it? How can we make a difference for the collective? So Aquarius season as a whole is asking us, how can we as individuals make a difference for the collective? And we have to remember that we as a society are uplifting certain people and giving them power and spotlights. And so you have to ask, who are you as an individual helping to shine a spotlight on? Who in your community are you uplifting? Who are you giving a voice and a platform to? If you're not the one with the big ideas that'll help change the world, that's okay, but you can still do your part by shining a spotlight on those who do. So who in your community are you uplifting? Who are you supporting? Because collectively, if we keep if just other people are like uplifting this one voice and you don't agree with them, but you don't share an alternate voice from somewhere, then there's no like, tension saying, hey, what about this? So the Leo full moon is reminding us that those who shine don't shine in solitude. They have the courage to show their light to the world. And that courage, that Leo courage, comes from the support of their friends and their society and their culture. And that's Aquarius. And those who make change rarely do so from a place of solitude. They have a community of supporters helping to uplift their voice and give them a platform. Like, we're coming into Black History Month, and I'm thinking about people like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King who made a difference, but they didn't do it all by themselves. They had an idea, they did an action, but it was their society, it was their peers, their friends, and the culture supporting them and uplifting them and marching with them and standing in support with them that helped them actually make a difference and change things. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made a difference. Just for someone can be saying beautiful words and meaningful, powerful things, but if no one hears it and shares it and uplifts it, then it's not going to reach people and touch people and inspire change. So that's that Leo Aquarius axis, in my opinion. So I want to talk a little bit more about the astrology of this specific full moon in Leo. So shifting gears a little bit, we have, again, this full moon will be 100% exact on February 5th, 2023 at 10:27 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 16 degrees Leo. The night before that, it's also very much Leo full moon energy. So this counts for the night of the 4th also. So the moon in Leo is conjunct Black Moon Lilith. And Black Moon Lilith marks the point in the moon's orbit when it is apogee, which means it's farthest away from the Earth. So the moon has like a little bit of a lopsided orbit where sometimes it's closer to the Earth and sometimes it's farther away. And the apogee is the point when it's farthest away. And that's what Black Moon Lilith represents in a chart. It represents the point of the moon's orbit that is farthest away from the Earth. So this means that the full moon in Leo is a micromoon because it's going to appear smaller than average. When the moon is near Black Moon Lilith, it is farther away and it's moving slower and appears smaller to the observer on Earth. So this is not great for Leo energy, which desires to be bigger and brighter and more dazzling, right? So an underwhelming micromoon for the full moon in Leo, ouch. But that's part of this lesson. So part of this full moon's lesson and energy is perhaps about recognizing how we react to rejection. So Black Moon Lilith is named after the ancient Hebrew mythology of Lilith, the first wife of Adam, who was cast out of their home for not submitting to her husband. Lilith wanted to be an equal of her spouse, not a servant. She wanted her own desires and ambitions to be equally recognized alongside her partner. And in asking for this, she was cast out and rejected. Ouch. So the moon, when it is in apogee, is cast far away from the earth, the garden, and can bring up our own fears of rejection. So Leo energy is primarily seeking validation and acceptance from others. Again, what good is the spotlight if there's no applause? The Leo full moon conjunct Black Moon Lilith might bring to our consciousness the ways that we feel cast out or rejected by others, the ways that we don't fit in, the ways that we are made to feel small and dim. So this is one of Leo's hardest life lessons, is learning to find acceptance and validation from within rather than from others. The trial of learning to not care so much what other people think. And that balance to that hard Leo lesson is found through Aquarius, which rejects society's expectations and instead embraces its own inner weirdness. A lot of Aquarius people have been historically like the oddballs and the eccentric people. They're not the ones that society first looks at and goes, yes, we love you. Society goes, that's not normal. That's weird. Ew. And so Aquarius is better at showing Leo how to be happy without needing the external validation from others. Aquarius reminds Leo that some of the people who have changed the world have been are remembered by history are the ones who often were rejected by society in some way and cast out because of their eccentric ideas. So Black Moon Lilith in Leo reminds us of the pain of rejection that we have all felt at one time or another. The time when we shared our creativity and were met by criticism rather than praise, and the wound created from that experience. This full moon brings that wound to the surface again. But if we remember the Aquarius side of the equation, we can find some balance and healing. So some of those feelings might come up during this full moon, and that's okay. Actually, I would say if you're feeling that sense of rejection, it means that you're right on track with what the moon is trying to remind you of and teach you about in this full moon cycle. So we also have this dynamic of Uranus in Taurus being in a square aspect to both the sun and the moon. This creates an aspect pattern called a T-square, with a planet squaring two planets that are in opposition to each other. So we have sun and moon in opposition, and Uranus in Taurus is squaring each of them. So this is a fixed T-square, presenting a challenge between the fixed signs. So Aquarius is fixed air, Leo is fixed fire, and Taurus is fixed earth. The fixed signs tend to resist change or come to change more slowly if they're given the option. The fixed signs are the stabilizers of their element and season, just bringing forth the energy of their element in a really solid, stable, and stubborn way. Aquarius gets very fixed in their ideas, right? Leo gets very fixed in their passions, and Taurus gets very fixed in their earthy habits and their embodiment experience. So each of these signs, like through their element, brings this solid, stable, yet stubborn energy. So there's tension and anxiety building with this aspect, as if some kind of change is brewing, but you're not quite sure what it is. It's still like feels beneath the surface, right? Uranus is the great awakener, and it tends to bring surprises or work in unexpected ways to bring change. Uranus brings things that are abrupt or sudden. And again, the fixed signs don't like things that are sudden or abrupt. They don't like surprises or unexpected changes. So there's resistance from all of these signs. There's resistance from Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius to any type of abrupt change. And this can even show up as willfully ignoring the call to change, right? Just not even seeing it, not acknowledging it, willfully ignoring it because you don't want to acknowledge it. Once you acknowledge it, you have to like start embracing it. So we may be subject to some kind of change in life, or maybe it's just an inspiration and a desire to change that's being activated by this Uranus square. Either way, that fixed sign energy is resistant to change, so there's a tendency to stubbornly resist change when it appears. You have to be aware of that resistance within you. So Uranus has an energetic association with earthquakes. But in earthquakes, the buildings that aren't made to bend and shift are the ones who break and crumble, right? If you have a branch and you're applying tension, if it has some flexibility and it bends, it's not going to break. But if it is dry and brittle, it's going to snap in half. So that's just an image that I'm getting with this T-square of there's a pressure being applied and the fixed signs are resistant to change, which that stubbornness and that resistance can result in something being broken or like a sudden like snap that where it just doesn't work anymore and the whole thing falls apart. Whereas if we are a little more flexible and maybe a little willing to change, then that change doesn't have to be so severe, right? So this aspect has the sun and moon in Aquarius and Leo simultaneously being asked by Uranus what needs to change in our lives. And Uranus and Taurus often can relate to like what needs to change in the physical realm. Taurus relates to our embodiment, our food, our access to like the things that keep us alive on a basic sense. So shelter, food, money, health, like all of those very physically grounded things. So what needs to change in those realms? And if there's a valid reason for change, this is a good time to stop resisting it and lean into some flexibility and acceptance to find the ease with whatever change is emerging in your life as we move into spring. So this square is coming right as the sun reaches the point of midwinter. That midwinter point is when the sun reaches 15 degrees Aquarius. And I'm speaking for the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, that would be the midsummer point. The 15 degrees Aquarius is the middle of the season, and then it's going to start shifting out of winter into spring for the northern hemisphere. So this square happening with Uranus at, let me double check again. I have the chart, Uranus at 15 degrees Taurus. And so right when the sun was at 15 degrees Aquarius, at this mid-winter moment, there was the Uranus at 15 degrees Taurus saying, wait a second, something needs to change here, right? Something has got to give. So that square is coming right as the sun reaches that midwinter point, and the moon is reaching the point that if the sun were there, it would be midsummer. So the moon is in that opposition point. And perhaps this tension that we feel is something like the cracking of an egg as something new is being born within us. So the egg shell serves a purpose of protecting the embryo while it transforms into a life. But eventually the shell must be cast off for the new life to emerge. So cracks in the shell are scary, right? But cracks in the shell don't always mean that the shell has failed. Sometimes the cracks mean that the shell has served its purpose well, and it's time to move on to the next stage in development. So sometimes we resist change because it's scary and we don't know what's going to be on the other side, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's something beautiful that is trying to emerge, and the more we resist it, we kind of hold back that new life from busting out of the eggshell. So we also have the sun and the moon squaring the nodal axis. So the nodes are currently in Taurus and Scorpio, and the sun and moon are in the fixed Aquarius and Leo, and they're squaring the nodes in the fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio. So this nodal square happened more towards the beginning of when the moon first entered Leo and towards the beginning of Aquarius season with the sun. So we're not as active in that square right now because both the moon and the sun have kind of moved a little bit off of that, but they're still within 10 degrees of a square to the nodes at the time of the full moon. So what that means is, how do I break it down? We are nearing the end of this nodal axis period, and we still have eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio yet to occur this year. So when the sun is squaring the nodes, it means that we are halfway between eclipse seasons. The last eclipses occurred when the sun was in Scorpio, and the next eclipses will occur when the sun is in Taurus, and Aquarius is the halfway point between Scorpio and Taurus. So the sun is halfway between eclipse season. Scorpio and Taurus are the other fixed signs axis, so fixed water and fixed earth. We're in the middle of an 18-month cycle with the nodes in Scorpio and Taurus, bringing about some kind of deep change that we likely haven't fully seen yet. The Taurus-Scorpio axis is the axis of power. Both signs have a lot to teach us about our own personal empowerment, and that true empowerment comes when we fully understand and claim our own values. So Scorpio and Taurus are about values and power. So it's the time to figure out what you truly desire and let this guide you to your natural strength. While the nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio, we're having like this 18-month process of figuring out what we really desire and what we really value, and let your values guide you to your natural strengths. Through understanding your own values, you develop better boundaries and you learn how to honor your own needs, and that's power. So the Leo full moon with the moon and sun in signs that square the nodes is a good time to look back at what was happening during the last eclipse season, during Scorpio season with the Taurus full moon eclipse. See what was happening in your life back then, and what were your goals? And are you still living in alignment with your values? Or what has changed or shifted? How have your values changed and shifted in that time? How are you helping or blocking the changes that you felt in your life during Scorpio season and the last eclipse season? And how does the Leo and Aquarius axis help you to break down the blockages of the Taurus-Scorpio axis? So if Taurus and Scorpio is about values and power, and Leo and Aquarius are about creative self-expression and group expression, what do those things have to teach to the Taurus-Scorpio lessons? Like, how can we break down blockages in our Taurus-Scorpio axis through the Leo-Aquarius axis? So we can find greater freedom and authenticity in our sense of values and our sense of power if we let the Leo and Aquarius energies kind of inform and teach that Taurus-Scorpio axis. So I think that that's a powerful moment for us to reflect on during this full moon. So the other thing happening is Venus is squaring Mars. Because of the prevalence of Uranus in Taurus, Venus is important during this eclipse because on this full moon, this Venus is important because Uranus is important, and Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we have a time period where we go, okay, Venus is important because of Uranus being important right now. So we have to look at what Venus is doing for clues to a deeper meaning and kind of the energies that are deeply influencing this full moon. So Venus is enjoying a lovely exaltation in Pisces. It's truly one of the most pleasant transits of the year. Venus loves being in Pisces, but there is a slight hiccup as she comes into a square aspect with Mars in Gemini this week. So this is a mutable square, Venus in mutable Pisces and Mars in mutable Gemini. And it's a square to Venus's counterpart, Mars. Venus and Mars are kind of like opposite points of energy of their own. Venus is like attracting, and Mars is like pushing away. Or Venus is sometimes seen as the divine feminine, whereas Mars is seen as the divine masculine. There's lots of ways to kind of frame how they are entwined in this energy that is balanced, kind of like two opposite signs. So Venus in Pisces is carefree, happy to daydream and float on fantasy from one pleasure to the next. Whereas Mars in Gemini is motivated to learn new things and filling the mind with new ideas and inspiration to take action. Both of them are in mutable signs, so neither Mars nor Venus can really decide what direction they're going next, and they're both kind of easily distracted right now. However, Mars in Gemini is applying a pressure for movement, wanting to apply the many ideas of Gemini in some kind of forward momentum. And this is contrary to Venus in Pisces just wanting to chill. She just wants to go with the flow and enjoy the moment. That conflict can manifest in our lives internally as a restlessness, a desire to rest, and a desire to be learning and stimulating the mind, coexisting at the same time. This conflict can also manifest externally as conflict with others. In particular, Mars and Venus squares can bring existing relationship conflicts to the surface, inflaming old arguments and sexual tensions. Mars and Gemini can tend to use words as weapons when it is feeling insulted, ignored, or otherwise emotionally wounded. So be aware of a tendency to lash out with your words or for other people to lash out with their words. And those are, if someone's lashing out with their words, they're probably feeling insulted, ignored, or somehow emotionally wounded. Venus and Pisces can tend to indulge in addictions or impulsively seek pleasure when it's feeling ignored, insulted, or otherwise emotionally wounded. So there's also this tendency to self-indulge in things that feel good, the pleasure seeking, and impulsive urges that Venus can have as a coping mechanism when it's not getting validation from other people, right? So if it's feeling ignored or insulted or not validated, then there's a tendency with Venus and Pisces to soothe the emotions with some kind of pleasure, be it food or drugs or sex or something, just make it feel better, right? So both of these things are activated. We have Mars wanting to use words as weapons and kind of like sting and fight back. And we have Venus wanting to like indulge in maybe the less healthy coping mechanisms. So it's wise to remember that like this is just part of this transit right now. And most people are just seeking validation and support from the people around them, right? And that's easy enough to give if you can get out of your own head enough to give it. So if you're sitting here just, woe is me, my friends didn't give me the validation I wanted, my partner didn't compliment me, I feel ignored, then you're just gonna swim in this like Mars Venus square that is just not feeling very good. If you can get out of your own head enough to remember that like maybe they're not able to give the validation because they're not receiving any validation either. And so that brings us back to that Leo full moon of many of us seeking validation and support from others, and Black Moon Lilith feeling rejected or sensitive to rejection. And so there's a call here from the Aquarius side by a calling to make a difference by choosing to validate and uplift our friends rather than focusing on our own woundedness. There's a call to turn it around and how can I uplift other people? Focusing on how we can help others in our community feel uplifted and validated rather than waiting for someone to uplift and validate us. So this will do a lot to relieve the pressure of Venus and Mars square and the Sun Moon opposition and the Black Moon Lilith. Like there's all this stuff and it's easy enough to just deflate that tension by giving other people validation and support. You can deflate any argument as soon as it begins by complimenting the person and throwing some validation into the mix. If they are being critical of you, then say, gosh, I hadn't thought of it that way. I appreciate your perspective and your unique way of looking at things, instead of being like, oh, they're criticizing me, that's a rejection. We can, compliment them. And then there's no argument. They're like, oh, yeah, I was just trying to help. It reminds them of their capability of uplifting and helping you also. And that's just one example, but really, I think through this full moon on the 4th and the 5th, like there's an opportunity here to shift out of our own heads and our own egos and our own feeling sorry for ourselves by choosing to uplift the people in our community that we want to support. Who are the people that you're learning from, that you value? Who's the best like person in your group that helps you feel confident? Give them some confidence, support and uplift them. Share the blogs and websites and videos of the people that you think are really like contributing to your society in the most powerful way, and just focus on lifting other people up and see if that doesn't help you shift out of that, like that tendency to feel very like small and dim and rejected with the Black Moon Lilith. Instead, just focus on giving validation to other people. And that's going to be the most powerful thing you can do through this full moon, is just give all of that validation that you wish you were receiving, give it to the people in your life that deserve it. Give that support, give that validation, lift people up. So that was a big full moon talk. Yay! I hope you enjoyed this video. This whole thing was written on my Patreon that's gonna be published on my Patreon blog. If you want to support what I do, you can become a supporting member of my Patreon for like $5 or $10 a month. And I also offer, and that's patreon.com/HestiasMuse. And I also offer personal one-on-one astrology readings. If you are interested in that, you can visit my website, www.hestiasmuse.net. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I'd love to hear what you think and feedback. If you like me doing a video format of the stuff that I post on my Patreon, let me know, because I am interested in maybe doing some more of this if this is what you guys like. So thanks so much, and see you next time. If I can figure out how to stop the recording. Stop recording. There we go.